Man, winning is fun. Why didn't the Kraken do this more earlier in the season? Yes, I know that at this point with the whole draft positioning and the Kraken trying to get as high a pick in the first round as they can, winning as much as they're doing right now is a bit rasky. But you know what they say, big Rask, big reward. And Victor Rask did have himself a pretty big game. What's cracking, everybody, and welcome back to Kraken R&R, where for the second game in a row, the Kraken come out with the win. This time, 2-4 over the Ottawa Senators. And I specifically said the score in that order, not because that's the way it appears on the scoreboard, though to be fair it is, but because before the game, the Kraken announced two new minority owners for the team. Those being Macklemore and number 24 himself, Marshawn Lynch. I mean, I suppose 24 could have also meant Ken Griffey Jr., but in this case, it's Marshawn Lynch. Both of whom were also in attendance at the game tonight, that being Macklemore and Lynch, as well as a few other Hex Seahawks, Cam Chancellor, Sidney Rice, and Cliff Averill all there, as well as one ex-Mariner in Jeff Nelson, not to be forgotten. And to show respect to their new minority owners, as well as to put on a show for them in the building, the Kraken went full beast mode in this game. Specifically defensively, as they really don't give Ottawa very many scoring chances, and Drieger isn't tested all that much in net. Aside from the beginning of the second period, but we'll get to that. Early on, and really throughout the entire first period, it's all Kraken, which is certainly helped out by the fact that not long after puck drops, Susie takes a stick to the face, which causes him to bleed, and that means it's a double minor for the Ottawa Senators and 4 minutes of Kraken power play early in this game, which normally we might not be all that excited about considering it is the Kraken power play, but if you remember from the last one, we did talk about the fact that Beniers has already fixed the Kraken power play, scoring his first ever NHL goal on the power play a game ago. And right on cue, this Kraken power play gets off to a pretty good start. They aren't able to find the back of the net right away, but eventually with 5 seconds left in the first 2 minutes of this double minor, it's done, down to Rask, quickly across to Sprong, who one-times it and scores to give the Kraken the early 1-0 lead, again with 5 seconds left in those first 2 minutes, which means only 5 seconds come off of the power play, and the Kraken get 2 more minutes to try to make it an early 2-0 lead. So yes, it isn't the Beniers first unit that ends up putting the puck in the back of the net here on the power play, but it is now 2 power play goals in 2 games for the Kraken, and that Beniers unit did have a pretty good start to this power play before the Sprong second unit eventually scores. Plus, that Beniers unit once again had a pretty good start to the second power play of this double minor, with Beniers having a very good one-time chance that ends up getting saved, and that second part of the power play does end up getting killed off. And going back to the Sprong goal for just a second, post-game Sprong in the press conference mentioned quite a few times that he learned a lot back in DC from the best to ever do it, especially from that position on the power play at the top of the faceoff circle, of course, referring to Ovi and the one-timers that he loves to take from his office setup there. Sprong, looking a lot like Ovi here, buries it from the back of the net on the one-timer from the top of that face-off dot on the left side. And for Sprong, who again got off to that hot start with the Kraken, scoring a goal in each of his first 3 games with the team after coming over at the trade deadline, it's good to see him get back on the scoring sheet, specifically with his 4th goal with Seattle, after having been robbed on a number of occasions since that hot start, and especially in that last game against the Devils. And then, not long after this whole sequence with the double minor, the Kraken get another power play, and once again, this power play gets off to a hot start with the Beniers first unit. Beniers all over the ice in this power play, in a good way, both up and down the ice on the defensive and offensive end, creating chances through transition and in the offensive end. Unfortunately, once again, this one is killed off by the Senators, and the Kraken still maintaining that 1-goal lead, which they would continue to maintain through a Senators power play later on in the period that they kill off pretty well. And at the end of one, it's 1-0 Seattle. And sure, I guess the Kraken momentum did slow down a fair amount as the first period went along here, but still it was a first period dominated by Seattle, especially when it comes to shots on goal, where they had 11 to just 3 for the Senators. Plus, it still translates to a 1-0 lead, and you'll take that going into the first intermission. Unfortunately, maybe due to that futility in the first period, the Senators do come out in the second, looking to prove that they aren't just going to get pushed around by the Kraken all night long, getting a couple of rush chances off on the Kraken end of the ice early in this period, the second of which sees a shot from Tkachuk get saved by Drieger, but then as he goes to control the rebound, shoveling it back into his pads, He accidentally shovels it under his pads and into the back of the net behind him. He doesn't know where the puck is, thinking he's saved it, but the Senators are celebrating behind him, and it's because, yeah, that's definitely a dang it for him, and it's a tie game. And then to make matters worse, just 2 minutes later, after the Senators had been pressing for a while, a Nick Holden shot beats Drieger cleanly, and it's 2-1 Senators, immediately taking the lead coming out in the second period. This one is definitely one you'd like to see Drieger come up with a save on, but it does look like he probably gets screened here and has no idea where the puck is until it's behind him in the net. And just like that, after getting only 3 shots on goal in the first period, the Senators now have 5 shots on goal in the first 3 minutes of the second, 2 of which have found the back of the net, and they've taken the lead. But the good news is that after one more pretty good Drieger save not long after the second goal for the Senators, which would prove to be their second to last shot on goal of the period entirely, it's all Kraken for the rest of the second, as once again, they only allowed 2 more shots on goal after allowing those 5 in the first 3 minutes. Meanwhile, back at the other end of the ice, about halfway through the period, Dunn passes the puck along the blue line to Larson, who fires off a shot that's going nowhere near the net. But that's okay, because it wasn't intended to go to the net, and it hits its target, which happens to be Beniers' stick, and it deflects off of Beniers' stick, off of a Senators player, and into the back of the net to give the Kraken their second goal of the game, and Beniers his second goal in his NHL career. And this game is tied at 2. For Beniers, it's now 3 points in 3 games in the NHL. And if that alone doesn't already tell you that just 3 games in, he's already feeling plenty comfortable in the NHL, then maybe the fact that he was calling for this, tapping his stick on the ice as Larson was holding the puck, should probably do the trick. Following another Beniers goal, the Kraken continue to lay on the pressure at the Senators' end of the ice, getting shot after shot on goal, and eventually it pays off on a rush chance for the Kraken. It's Donskoy across to Rask, who buries the shot and gives the Kraken back the lead. It's now 3-2, and for Rask, a now goal and assist in this game already. It's also good to see Donskoy back on the scoring sheet. It feels like it's been a while since he's been there. Definitely been a rough season for him. Just 20 points at this point, 2 goals and 18 assists, and he's been in and out of the lineup over the last couple of months, which is certainly not what we were hoping for coming into the season, especially being an Avalanche fan second. Yeah, I'm still cheering for him to hopefully get things going and turned around next season. As far as this game is concerned and this play, again, a very nice crossing pass from Donskoy that makes this goal happen, as well as a good shot from Rask, not taking too much time to take that shot off, putting it through the armpit of Forsberg. And not long after this Rask goal, the Kraken get another power play late here in the second, and it's a power play that Forsberg has to do some big work on for the Senators to keep the Kraken from making it 4-2, robbing Beniers early on in the power play, and then keeping the Kraken out of the net a couple more times. And I have to say that while the Kraken do really control this game offensively pretty much the entire time, it could have been a much bigger score for Seattle, as Forsberg made a number of big saves in net for Ottawa. And again, that only continues here as he is the Senators' best penalty killer on this power play that they are eventually able to kill off. Though as soon as they do kill it off, there's a big hit behind the Ottawa net on Soucy that draws a crowd. Fleury ends up getting in a fight, and at the end, there are traded fighting calls, but also a charging call against the Senators on Soucy that gives the Kraken another power play immediately after that last one, with just a minute left in the second, which the Senators are also able to somehow survive thanks again to the Forsberg to get to the end of the second period and into the third, with the Kraken leading 3-2. Now, obviously, it would have been great for the Kraken to capitalize on that 3 minutes of power play to end the second period, but the upside is that they now have a minute of power play to start out the third, on top of that 1-goal lead. Unfortunately, the power play really never gets going to start out the third, and eventually Eberle takes I think it was hooking call at the last seconds of the Kraken power play, which makes it 4-on-4 for a few seconds, and then the Senators will get their second power play of the game. Good news, the Kraken are able to kill that off without too much trouble, and we get into the rest of the third that kind of really doesn't turn out to be much of anything. Seattle just seems content with riding this one out to the end, or at least it seemed like they were just content riding out the rest of the game. Right up until late in the third, Gord powers his way into the offensive zone on a great forecheck, eventually getting a pass out to Kuhlman, who dangles in front of the net and then fires off a shot and scores to give the Kraken the 4-2 lead, which makes Marshawn Lynch at the boards at the other end of the ice very happy, pounding on the boards, first with his fist and then goes with the elbow. just trying out all sorts of things, excited to be down there watching his partially owned team. Unfortunately, all of that turns out to be just a little bit too much fun for the refs to handle. Ottawa challenges the call, and eventually it is reversed on what they say is a high stick by Gord entering the offensive zone. And I mean, you tell me. Honestly, this does not look like a high stick to me. It is pretty borderline, but considering this was called a good goal on the ice, I don't know. I mean, I certainly don't think there's enough here to overturn it. Either way, though, the refs disagree and the goal comes off the board. Still, Seattle is able to survive the rest of the game. One late Ottawa push. Eventually, the Senators do end up pulling Forsberg with a minute and a half left in the game. But the Kraken find the back of the net. Larson lofting a pass over everybody to McCann, who skates it into the back of the net, giving the Kraken eventually that fourth goal, this one not coming off the board, and also giving their celebrity fans once again something to cheer about after having that last one taken away. Plus, even though it is an empty net goal, McCann has been a bit snake-bitten recently himself, so maybe this will help get that going again and he can still reach 30 goals by the end of the season. That'd be fun to see. So then, as far as the 3 takeaways from this game are concerned, the first one would be that, all joking aside about Beniers immediately fixing the Kraken power play, there were still some clear issues of them usually passing the puck a little bit too slowly. The one that they score on, which was the second power play unit, was quick passing done to Rask across to Sprong for the one-timer, and that's really what we need to see more of from the Kraken. That being said, it is true that that first unit with Beniers on it, especially Beniers, has been creating a lot of offensive opportunities for the Kraken on the power play that we really just haven't seen. Clearly, very comfortable with the puck even off of the power play, but it especially shows on the power play. And while, yeah, it is a little bit of a joke that he's immediately fixed the power play, it definitely looks better with him there. The second takeaway would honestly just be the second period in general, where, again, to start things off, the Kraken came out a bit flat-footed, and the Senators, coming out to prove something after how the first period went, were able to take advantage of that. But even after Drieger putting one into the net himself, and then the second one just a good screen and Drieger not coming up with the save, Seattle was able to bounce back and respond, taking over the rest of the period from there and scoring 2 themselves to make sure to regain that lead going into the third. Yes, obviously it would have been nice for the Kraken to start that bounce back after the Tkachuk goal, hopefully waking them up a little bit, but still better late than never. And the third takeaway would be 14 shots on goal. 14 shots on goal that the Kraken limit the Ottawa Senators to, in this game by far the fewest that they've allowed to a team in a single game in franchise history. Or I guess just this season, however you want to look at it. With the previous low being 18 shots on goal that they allowed to the Rangers at home way back in October. And honestly, that only gets even more impressive when you remember the fact that 5 of those shots on goal came in a 3-minute span to start off the second period. So if you take away that poor start to the second, the Kraken only allowed 9 shots on goal over the course of this entire game, save for those 3 minutes where the Senators had their way. Now sure, it's just the Ottawa Senators, but still 14 shots allowed is a great defensive game no matter who you're playing against. Even if it was like the Arizona Coyotes the way they're playing, or like the Habs from earlier on in the season. That is a incredible defensive effort for the Kraken, and if they can keep that up, especially into next season, then they'll actually be the hard to score against team that we kind of expected coming into the year. As for the Kraken 3 stars of the game, honestly, I was thinking about being a little bit boring again and just going with the same 3 stars that were officially chosen. But I am going to go off the board for one of them. I'll still stick with the same first star, and that was Victor Rask, with a goal and an assist in this game, and a good play driver for the Kraken, especially playing well in the offensive end, and making that first power play goal happen with a quick, decisive pass, and then Sprong with the good one-timer. And then regaining the Kraken lead with a good decisive shot that beat Forsberg under his armpit to give the Kraken that third goal of the game. So for Rask, a very good game for him, especially in the offensive end. My second star for the Kraken was honestly, in my opinion, probably their best player tonight when you look at the full 200-foot game, both defensively and offensively. He doesn't end up getting on the score sheet as much as some other guys, and the only time he does get on the score sheet is the empty netter, and that is Jared McCann. Again, a very good night for McCann. Stellar in the defensive end and very good in the offensive end, creating a number of very good scoring chances for the Kraken, Just none of those found the back of the net like some of the other ones did for other guys. And I've also got to say that while I have been enjoying watching Gord and Lynn play together, and I hope they keep experimenting with that pairing going forward, with Lynn getting the night off in this game, that line of Gord, McCann, and Kuhlman was a play driver for the Kraken all night long. Most of their good scoring chances came from that line, at least when it was 5-on-5. And while all three of them definitely had a part in that, it was McCann driving the majority of those plays. And as for the Kraken third star of the game, again, this was another game where there were a number of guys that I think you could make a good argument for getting that third star, and I wouldn't argue too much with you. Adam Larsson does get 2 assists in the game, so he would be one of them. Jordan Eberle doesn't get on the scoring sheet, but of the guys who don't get on the scoring sheet, outside of maybe Gord, but still I think probably Eberle was the best player for the Kraken that didn't get a goal or an assist. Then of course there's also Matty Beniers getting a second goal in his second home game, and third point in 3 games in his NHL career. But even with how all those 3 guys played, I'm still going to stick with Vince Dunn in this one, getting 3 assists in the game. And again, if we're talking full 200-foot game, probably the second best player for the Kraken of the night. Rask was probably their best offensive player, but I'll give it to Dunn as the second best all-around player for the Kraken in this one. Plus, again, since it was such a good night defensively for the Kraken, I think it's worth mentioning a couple of these guys that played very well at the defensive end of the ice, as well as what they contributed offensively. A couple of other guys that I don't quite think had that full game but did play very well in the defensive end would be Hayden Fleury and Carson Soucy, both of which very good in the defensive end for the Kraken. They just didn't quite have that offensive support to their game in this one. But if you disagree with me, or even if you agree with me, please let me know down in the comment section. Give me your 3 stars of the game and what you guys thought of a second Kraken win in a row as they go for their first 3-win streak in their next game. Unfortunately, it is against the Avalanche, so that's going to be an uphill battle. But again, this was a fun one, so if you made it to this point, thank you very much for watching. If you did like or enjoy this video, there are buttons for that kind of stuff down below that help support the channel, so I'd appreciate you using them. And until next time, be good to each other, God bless, and go Kraken!